Okay, this is something close to you. All right.
Welcome to Big Questions, Short Answers. I'm Sian.
And I'm Andy, Sian's husband, asking the big life questions.
And possibly adding a little bit of unsolicited advice.
Maybe. This podcast is brought to you by Sian's value-based online course. Visit sianjacquet.com to find out more. So the question of the day is, why don't diets work?
Is it you asking for yourself?
Well, that's a bit rude. Well, possibly, yes. But no, but you've had a whole lifetime of diets and whatever.
Why don't diets work?
Well, because let's go a little bit of history. You've actually had bariatric surgery some years ago, and for many years you struggled, even though I
struggled to stop putting food in my mouth.
But equally, it resulted in diabetes and other stuff. But we're constantly given a promise of diets, and exercise and all this. And yes, it does work. Does it work? I don't know.
Do they work for you?
To destroy the...
Do diets work for you?
Well, I'm not very good at diets, I must admit, because I like a drink. I like a beer. It's not ideal. And a little bit of jockey and the odd crisp. So really, diets aren't working for me at all, because I'm not even going into the space. But, there is a massive issue, isn't there, in terms of our population globally, overeating and getting a bit bigger than they should be. From a health perspective, we're not fat shaming.
I'm just sitting here with my mouth closed, watching you. Watching you wrap yourself in barbed wire. Keep going.
Well, I know that.
What do you want to know?
Well,
do diets work? From what perspective? My personal one, from a scientific perspective, from a psychological one? I mean, it depends which conversation you want. I mean, my own personal view is that from what I have read, and that doesn't make me an expert, it's just what I have read, there is an irony here that it is to do with fundamentally with poverty and not either knowing or having the resources to buy and cook healthy food. I also think there is a psychological element to this of learned behaviour from childhood, that you were given sweet things and extra things to keep you quiet as a treat if you're a good child.
Okay.
I think all of that creates beliefs and behaviours. I think that the media, the judgmental world that we live in, and we are literally indoctrinated with visions and ideas and specifics on what we should look like and what our bodies should look like, and
skinny models.
Yeah, you're not sexy, you're not healthy, you're not all of these things if you haven't got them. Exactly.
I've got a 1-pack.
Have you? Never noticed.
Actually, I've got the whole barrel.
So my point is that it's a daft question. Do diets work? I think there is a whole body of scientific evidence now that yo-yoing and dieting and stop dieting and starving your body and doing all the rest of it does not work, because your body then just holds on to fat because it thinks it's living in a famine. Yeah. I'm not going to pretend to know enough about it, but I know that my own personal experience, dieting never really worked for me. It was, from a psychological point of view, very, and I mean very traumatic. Yeah, it just undermined my sense of self.
Yeah.
After saying that, I'm not suggesting that bariatric surgery is the answer to everything and the answer to everybody, because it is not a quick fix. That smugness, and God knows I saw a lot of that when I had the surgery. You've cheated, you've done it the easy way, you've done whatever. Well, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I'm now 4 or 5 years on, or whatever it is, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
Every day of my life, I have to think, I have to process, I have to, think about food and my body in a very different way.
Right.
I think one of the things I have learned, which I think has made a difference, and is also, for me, one of the central pillars of truth regarding food and image, body image and all the rest of it. One of the ways that helped me was creating an understanding, therefore the belief, and I'm now holding on to it, that food is fuel. It's not an emotional delight. It's not, can be, but you see what I mean? That if you start literally thinking of fuel and what specific foods do to your body, I mean, when I learned after I'd had the surgery, you know, the protein was king.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in a group therapy session at one point with a whole group of people, not just women actually, who had had surgery. There was a fascinating conversation with a dietitian and a psychologist who were explaining the detail of what protein does to your brain, and without it, how your brain doesn't work. Well, that was it. That's all I needed to hear. You know what I mean? It made me focus in a way and think about food. I think diets, if you want my honest opinion, and again, this is the world according to Sian, Andy, it doesn't make me right. I think the whole world of dieting is dangerous, is full of emotional fire pits. And I've seen, still do, too many people whose lives have not been fulfilling because they're so hard on themselves, because they don't look right and they don't feel right. We live in a society that's so judgmental.
Oh, it is ridiculously judgmental. If you over a certain size, especially as a woman, they don't think you're intelligent. It's bizarre. It's still the same head on the body, but you change the body and all of a sudden you become more intelligent. It's quite bizarre, but that is the case.
I don't know. I think it's got a lot to do with emotional trauma. And from my own perspective, it was my relationship with food, and still is, about I have access, I can, so therefore I will, and you can't tell me not to.
Unless there's a fridge magnet on the fridge that says "Stand away, move away from the fridge." We had one of those.
We did.
And a policeman, he said, "Move away from the fridge."
Yeah, that was many years ago. It's a minefield. Yeah, and to be honest, the only way, I think, it's through education. It's through teaching kids to cook. It's about vegetables and, making it accessible and supporting mums and working parents. Because I can tell you now, there were times, Andy, where what we fed our kids for tea was not ideal.
No.
It was not ideal.
No, but
I was too tough.
Chicken delight. But it is a new phenomenon, probably. Like, I remember when I went to school, there weren't that many fat kids. But now, a lot of fat kids at school, isn't there? You're looking at me.
Because you're chortling and I can see your double chin.
Yeah.
I rest my case.
Well, it's bad, isn't it? That there is that
cheap
where we
food. It's food outlets that are clearly not meeting the nutritional needs. It's computers, it's television. It's parents who don't have enough time to do anything other than the fundamentals because they're busy and they're tired, and I'm not.
So much going on.
And we were those parents.
Yeah.
I can remember kind of sweet things when our children were small. We didn't have that many in the house, to be honest. We didn't do puddings, didn't do that many sweets. It doesn't mean we never did them, but they weren't. But my dad was a sweet man, and I can remember you and I having a couple of rows about, do we say you can't share, don't give the kids sweets. We came to the conclusion, well, look, they're looking after the kids, and it's the way they want to do it. But it's what your beliefs are about food, and as I say, it would boil it down to, do they work? Probably not, to be honest. And if you want to get healthy, the two things I would say is get off your arse and walk. And probably more importantly, start thinking of food as fuel. Wow. What do I need to eat in a day to make the brain work, to make my legs work, to make my heart work, to make, quite an interesting shift.
I mean, well, it is, because food is cooking shows, food shows, the whole thing has just exploded, hasn't it? And a lot of it's healthy, but equally, you have to wonder why, bariatric surgery globally is just, the numbers are huge. And, it's interesting, isn't it, that you've got all those factors, and, then have all that food, and then you bring in bariatric surgery to combat it.
What I want to ask you is, what made you ask the question? What is it about dieting? What is it? Is it in your head at the moment? What's triggered that?
Well, I think it's possibly always there. And I've tried, a few times to be consistent and, drink shakes and various other things. And I lose a kilogram And then, it's later, a month later, and I, lose my discipline and, put 2 kgs on. So, yeah, it's
not easy.
Not easy. Not easy.
But as I say,
you could be on a permanent diet. It's tough.
It's about what's behind it, isn't it? If the relationship with food is about, if I look after my body with the fuel, with what I'm putting in it, I think that equation is probably going to work out well for you. If you are obsessed about what you're putting in your body because that's going to be what I look like and that's going to be how people judge me and that's how going to be whether I'm liked and whether I'm, I mean, that's not even a door to adolescence and dieting and weight and body image.
And it's like be whatever weight you want to be. That's, from my perspective, it's like be whatever weight you want to be. I've lived with you in varying sizes of Sian, and you're still beautiful to me, whatever. But obviously, there's the health issues.
Well, that's really what it's about, isn't it? Does it really matter?
And you look at some people and you think they're a walking heart attack.
Do you? Well, that's you, isn't it, Mr. Judgmental?
You're right.
Not sentimental, just judgment.
Yeah. But,
so does that help?
Well, hopefully it helps. Hopefully it helps our listeners. Just a little bit of discussion around that. So no pie for me at lunchtime.
You really thought you're funny, don't you?
Join us next time on Big Questions, Short Answers with Sian Jacquet and me, Andy.
If you have any questions you want to ask, please send them via the website, sianjacquet.com.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and share it with everyone you know.
We really do appreciate you sharing 15 minutes with us.
And if you want to do a bit more learning, go on to Sian's website, sianjacquet.com. There's a course on values to create the life you truly love. I did it, and it really does do what it says on the can.
See you next time.